Hi, this is Brandon Smiley from Thirst Gym in Terre Haute, Indiana. Today we're going to talk about training youth athletes and our philosophy, methods, and the way we go about building the youth athletes that we work with here in our facility. So we've got a couple different things up here on our board, and this is how we kind of make decisions based upon the kids that we get, their athleticism, their goals, their sports. There's a lot of moving pieces, and many kids generally are multi-sport athletes, in most cases than not. If they're not, we definitely talk that with the parents about the importance of being a multi-sport athlete until the later stages of their child development. So we've got up here basically our three groups that we kind of classify the kids that we work with, and then we have how we make programming decisions for our athletes. So when we look at things, the first thing we look at is their age. And I have on here ages 6 to 11. Please note that these are not like set in stone. We can actually have a 12-year-old kid that would still technically fall in our fundamentals. That doesn't necessarily mean they're in the learn to train. Or we could have a kid that is 16 that is not necessarily in their train to win, but they might still be in the learn to train phase. It all depends upon when we get them, their previous background experience, how long they've played sports, what their maturity is like, that their actual age is not a true indicator. This is generally how we try to lump kids, in most cases than not. So our first one is what we call fundamentals. Okay, notice that I have the word fun in all capitals for this to emphasize that training should be fun. If it is not fun, we're not doing the kid a service and trying to teach them the enjoyment of not only exercise, but training for sport. So we need to make sure that we're big on the basics. So we're going to make sure we teach them how to do squat patterns, lunge patterns, run, jump, throw, carry, hinge, push and pull in different directions, both horizontally and vertically. And then we use different implements as well. So balls, kettlebells, sleds, ropes, tires, things like that. Awkward, it's kind of non-structured. There's a little bit of structure involved, but in most cases than not, it's about giving the kid multiple areas of stimulus and areas that they can grow. And then we dwindle that down as we go down our developmental model. So once they get to this age and we make sure their basics are good and everything here looks great, then once they start to age and mature, or if they happen to be a good athlete that walks in between around this age group, then they move to our learn to train group. The learn to train group basically means that we can start actually doing probably a little bit of barbell work for our 8th graders that may happen to fall in this category. We can also begin to actually load movements up a little bit more than we would in the fundamentals. We still have to make sure that the fundamentals are here. We cannot budge on that, and we cannot let them just do whatever they want. There has to be structure and a plan, but we're actually trying to push them to actually train hard, learn how to strain and have to go up weights and have to struggle through a little bit of stuff. You're actually going to have to put in some work, and it's not necessarily all about fun. Do we have fun? Yes, but we've got to learn how to train and what those movements should look like, because now we're going to probably start using some implements that could potentially hurt you if you do not take them seriously. So once they get that learn to train mentality down and they actually know what it's like to be serious in here for most of their training, then they can move to what we would call the train to win. This is the age group where we have probably specialized to 1, maybe 2 sports. We're probably going to see the kids that are generally in varsity. They're trying to get all conference. They might be looking at Division 3, 2, 1 scholarships. They are training to dominate at their level. The reason I call this train to win, because in our opinion, winning at the ages of 6 to 11 and 12 to 15 are not that important. Winning here will not dictate how you do here, but winning here will dictate how you can get to the next level. So if we can teach you how to do all this, will you get to be a better athlete? Absolutely. But winning is not the only purpose here. Developing an athlete to win is what's important so that we can train to win. This is where winning means much more in terms of high school success. So then once they obviously get to here, we try to help them get to that next level, and then they're probably on to some collegiate or semi-pro or professional level that we probably won't see them a whole lot. But basically, if anybody would come in here, at that collegiate or whatever, they would be falling in our train to win category. So this is where our training is way more serious. We're going to take way more advanced methods in our training to help get them to that next level. And these are probably the kids that have previous weight room experience, and we just need to fine-tune things and make smart exercise selections. Speaking of that, then we go to how we make decisions on what we're going to do. So we've got a couple different things here, 6 ways that we try to advance exercises. So in most cases than not, we're going to start with a general exercise and then eventually progress it to something specific. We're going to start with something with both arms or legs, bilateral, and then we usually progress it to a unilateral variation. We'll start with something that's slow and we'll move it to where it's going to be fast. We're going to start something where it's low and it's going to be high. So think of things like your boxes and your hurdles. We're going to start you lower than higher because we want to make sure that not only is it good, which is down here, our quality over our quantity. We want to make sure that it looks good before we start adding more, because if you're doing a lot of repetitions that are not of quality, then there's no reason to emphasize quantity because we're not going to see good progress. And then we also look at short to long. So are we going to have something that maybe has a short lever arm to a longer lever arm? Are we going to have a short sprint versus a long sprint? Are we going to have something in short duration like a plank or a dead bug to a longer duration for that particular hold or exercise? And this can also be even looked at in time under tension for your hypertrophy stuff. You have short time under tension initially just to learn the exercise, and then as you progress you can have your long time under tension to be able to build more muscle and add some mass for that particular athlete if they need it in that particular area. So in most cases than not, this is how we make decisions, and this is still lumped into each one of these. So for an example, if we have a 10-year-old kid that's in our fundamentals, we're going to make sure that he's doing general stuff first, and same thing on our ages 12 to 15. They're going to do something general in nature first. It may not look specific to the sport. You don't necessarily see somebody squatting on a golf course, but that is a general exercise that will help specific exercises later on. So we need to start general and move to specific. You can also look at your learn to win, where you're going to start with something general. We might just do a regular back squat, but then as we get into and towards season, we might move to something more specific. We may end up doing a dynamic effort squat, or maybe even doing a lot more jumps and squats supersetted together to be able to activate post-activation potentiation. That's all specific training effects based upon each different category, but we're still going from general to specific. We'll go from 2 legs to 1. We'll go from slow to fast, low to high, short to long, quality to quantity. So as a whole, this should make very basic sense. We're trying to start with a very, very big base of our triangle, and then we work up towards the peak here, which is where we want our kid to be at the end of the day when they are down up here. So you'd have, if we had it here, this would be our basics guy, this would be our learn to train, and this would be our kids that are a little bit older here. And same thing with this, all of your general stuff would start here and become specific. Your bilateral will become unilateral, your slow to fast, your low to high, your short to long, your quality over your quantity. Now the other thing to keep in mind is also when you get to this train to win area, you have athletes that need to work on specific times of year. And again, the same thing holds true, general specific depending on time of year, and then also some of your exercise selection where you're doing things a little bit slower versus a little bit faster, and then you try to project where they need to be when that season comes for your train to win. With your learn to train and your big on the basics kind of kid, your fundamentals, you don't have to worry about peaking and all of that kind of stuff. If you have a good quality concurrent model that focuses on all of this year round, they focus on strength, power, speed, general hypertrophy for the athlete that is in the ability to build muscle, and then you're focusing on single leg trunk work and conditioning all in one session over the course of a week, you're going to be completely fine, and you don't have to worry about peaking these particular athletes, because the goal, like I said, is not necessarily to always win. Winning is nice, but winning is not the importance right here. Having fundamentals, learning to train, being big on the basics will set you up so that when you get to the ages of 6 to 19, when you're in high school and you have that high school athlete, then you start training to win. Then you start pulling out all your bags of tricks to be able to get this kid to dominate everybody else, because you'll have this big base that is built up and you'll be able to peak higher, versus if we have someone that shortens this, if that base isn't as big, then their pyramid isn't as tall, and the kids started technically, their triangle here started here, and so it's not going to get as big. So you got to have a big base to create a big peak in any kind of training philosophy, and basically that's what we do with our 3 different kind of groups in terms of how we lump kids and how we do their training, and then how we make exercise selections for that particular kid or that particular group of athletes right here with these 6 things, and how we progress them over the course of our training career with them. And this goes in and out, back and forth, year round. You know, there's nothing wrong with going from something unilateral back to bilateral. That doesn't matter. Just generally when you're trying to progress a kid, you're going to start with more bilateral stuff than you are unilateral stuff, and you build them into that unilateral because that is a more challenging position to be in. So hopefully that's a really good, quick understanding of the way that we work with athletes who've had really great success with this. It's not anything overly complicated, but it does give us some structure and a road to go. The one caveat to this is playing the long ball. This is not going to be a simple fix. It's not going to get your athlete to be a stud in 8 weeks. It doesn't work like that. The kids that are up here, as we've mentioned, don't need to train to win yet. They just need to be big on these basics, and they're going to be fine. And then when they get there, they will win. They will dominate. They will be the superior athlete, and you will see that, because generally what happens is the athletes that have done a lot of sports for a long period of time and they pick 1 or 2 and stick on it, they're generally your kids that go on to actually win and play at the bigger level, versus the kid that just specializes year-round in one sport and doesn't do anything to broaden their base of their pyramid. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. Get a hold of me. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me obviously on YouTube, Facebook. I answer questions about this stuff almost on a daily basis with parents and athletes. This is our model. We've had good success. We've taken things from this from research and other programs and facilities, and we've had really good success with it. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks. Have a great day.